Welcome back to the MMA Plug presented by DenverSportsBetting.com on 98.1 FM. Denver, we are here talking right now with my man Josh Fremd. I am Jordan Kurtz, and we are about to break down the UFC 264 card. This is the betting preview. Hit us up on the Go Fast Energy Drink text line 303-831-1340. Let us know what your thoughts are on the card. Josh, as we get into this card, you know, I'm just hearing this Foggy Dew by Sinead O'Connor. I mean, it's one of those that just puts you right back in the moment. You know, I'm having visions of green and orange strobe lights throughout the arena, fog cascading the canvas, the Billy Walk coming in. What a tone this trilogy is going to be for that entire night.
Oh, yeah, man. It's going to be huge, and I'm right there with you. That having all that imagery in my head, like, that gives me so many chills. Like, I'm just ready to see those guys make the walk, you know? Like, this is why we love the sport.
Absolutely. So coming into this fight, we're going to take a look at the odds. We see that Dustin Poirier right now currently sits at a minus 125, and Conor is sitting at minus 103. So it's still pretty even out there. Right. We have seen the line shifting a little bit. I would expect to see some more money as the weekend goes along from just a lot more of the casual fan base going toward the Conor side. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I don't really know that it's going to be a major gap by the time that this weekend comes. So that being said, it's only been 6 months since Dustin Poirier was able to score the TKO victory over Conor McGregor. Josh, what are your thoughts on this matchup, and do you think that there has been enough time for Conor McGregor to right the wrongs or the tactical deficiencies in his game?
You know, I feel like he did. Even though it's been 6 months, you know, Conor has all the time in the world, all the money in the world that he can take and separate his life and work on what he needs to. And I think, you know, he might, if he's smart, gets away from the boxing style, go back to, you know, his bread and butter. When he first got into the UFC, go back to his long karate kicking stance, you know? I think he has made the necessary changes. I don't think it's going to be enough, though.
Now, with as far as switching up his stance, that is an interesting point, and it's been something that a lot of the everywhere from the underground forums to people on social media, all across the board, karate stance Conor's going to be back. You know, there's the motivated McGregor, there's bald Conor, there's all these different associations that people place out there. But even with that, Josh, when he goes and he stands in that wide split karate stance, that lead leg is still pretty susceptible to damage if he has not figured out the checking aspect of it. He's not able to move and be fluid.
Yeah, true. And, you know, I can't say which one is better, boxing or karate stance, when it comes to that low lead calf kick. But I feel like if you're in the karate stance, you might have a better chance of checking it, or at least, you know, bringing your heel to your butt to where it just skips off the shin instead of landing hard on that muscle.
So what you're saying is Conor's key to success may have been during this camp playing some more touch butt with that dork in the park.
You know what? You might be right.
I just had to had to bring in an Ito Portal reference in there. But, I mean, I think that is something that is a valid point there, that if Conor McGregor is to find success against Dustin Poirier the second time, he's going to need to be more of his old self, of just being fluid and using his movement to set traps, to create some different opportunities. Whereas when he was standing in that boxing stance, you know, he was very heavy on his lead leg. Obviously, that got chopped up pretty much. But that's not something that's out of the ordinary that we've seen from MMA fighters in history in general, Josh. Yeah. We've seen guys fall in love with their boxing as time goes, and they kind of sometimes get away, or maybe they fall in love with a different style in general from what maybe necessarily got them there.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't know. I'm really interested to see what the approach is going to be. We've obviously seen the mudslinging start from Conor online, saying that, you know, the first person to shoot is the one to lose and all of that. So, you know, what are your thoughts in relation to that? Do you think that somebody shoots first, or do you think that they're going to go 10 toes down, meet in the middle, and slug it out?
You know, I want to believe as a fan that we're going to see a 10 toes down. We're going to see an all-out war, a stand-up battle. But at the same time, you know, I feel like Dustin's a more complete fighter when it comes to wrestling, for the wrestling aspect. And, you know, if he does get clipped or if he does feel like he's losing the exchanges up top, tire him out, wrestle him a little bit, you know. I would hope to see a complete MMA fight. I don't want to see a just dead stand-up fight, even though that would be amazing. But it's MMA. Encompass it all. Show us all the skills.
Definitely. And folks, once again, shop your books and figure out what's going to be the best value for your money. But the average consensus across the board for this fight is that Dustin Poirier is the money line favorite at -125 with a slight comeback on Conor McGregor at -103. Josh, who are you taking, and do you have a call on a finish or a prop?
I'm going to have to go with Poirier on this one. I just don't see Conor being able, even though in the last fight he was able to box him up a bit and he caught him with a bunch of nice shots, but we're at 155 here. It's not cutting down to 145. You're not destroying your body, and he's a big 150. He's a solid dude, and he has a chin on him. He's a dog. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Poirier. I'm gonna go Poirier. Second round TKO again.
Boy, second round TKO. Okay. I do like that. I think that's actually a pretty likely outcome. And you know, if I were to pick an exact time and finish, I would say that's a fair pick right there. I think that in general, the later that the fight goes on, the more in favor of Dustin Poirier that this contest is going to become. Sure. And I do like the TKO finish for Dustin here. You know, I just don't think that the time was enough. You know, people say that, oh, he's now motivated McGregor. Well, so you're meaning that he wasn't motivated the last time? They say, oh, well, he woke up in silk pajamas and blah, blah, blah. Well, so him making another $500 million in April in between these two fights when he sold Proper 12 doesn't just add to that lavish life of luxury. Yeah. So, you know, I don't know. I just don't think that it's enough to overcome what Dustin has been able to build himself into over those years. You know, over the course of the last 6 years, Conor has made himself into one of the biggest sports moguls out there. Yeah. But that time that he was putting into those business interests, Dustin Poirier was putting into becoming one of the best fighters in the world. Yeah. I'm going to take Dustin Poirier on that one. Moving along to the co-main event of the evening, we have Durinho Gilbert Burns taking on Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Now, Josh, this is an interesting styles clash. This is almost, you know, if you think about it, this is like a trip to yesteryear in a way.
It is.
This is like old school UFC days. We have the karate specialist that's going to be taking on the jiu-jitsu world champion. Yeah. Now, what do you think as you break down this matchup?
Well, I think it's very interesting that people like to classify it as karate versus jiu-jitsu because, of course, Durinho has a tremendous background in jiu-jitsu, obviously, but in his latest couple fights, his stand-up has been coming along very nicely with the work of Henry Hoof down in Sanford. And, you know, I think it's going to be a great fight. This is actually a harder one for me to pick than the main event or any other fight on the card because, I mean, I love both of these guys personally as just a fighter, as a fan, you know. But at the same time, they're specialists in what they do. And, you know, Wonderboy, he's not easy to take down. He's not easy to take down. He's not easy to touch. He's very shifty. And Gilbert is just a dog, and he has that ground game. So it's going to be an interesting fight.
Now, Wonderboy is a very hard guy to prepare for, but if there is a guy out there who can possibly be a body double and mimic him for this camp, it is Raymond Daniels. And Gilbert Burns brought in Raymond Daniels for this camp. How much of a strategic advantage do you feel that plays for the preparation for somebody like a Gilbert Burns?
Oh, I think it helps tremendously. It gives him looks that he wouldn't normally see because, like you said, it's very hard to get ready for a guy like Wonderboy. So having Raymond Daniels is a huge asset. But at the end of the day, when you get into the cage, the person that you're fighting is not the person that you were training with. So even though that's a good look, timing might be different. Setups might be different. You never know.
Very true. Very true. Now, on the flip side, you have Wonder Boy, who, it's a tough thing to prepare for someone who brings all of the ground attacks that Gilbert has. Because I feel like, he's so fast and athletic, and he has an interesting blend of his power top along with just his submission attacks. That, if this does find its way to the canvas, Josh, it might be a very, very tough night for Wonder Boy.
Yeah.
You mentioned that he's tough to get down, but should it find itself there? Yeah. Should they get into some sort of scramble and, Gilbert Burns ends up on Wonder Boy's back, or just in a precarious position throughout the fight, up against the fence, he can attack things while standing.
Yeah.
So, that to me spells trouble for Wonder Boy. Am I right in that assumption?
No, you're right. That's a great assumption to have, because that is a scary part for Wonder Boy. There's a lot of aspects in the clinch game, and if he does get taken down or gets his back taken, how is his defense going to hold up?
Certainly. Now, Josh, there is a certain thought amongst these two fighters that there could be some major implications on the line for the outcome of this fight. Gilbert Burns has came out and been vocal, stating that he believes that if Wonder Boy wins the fight, Wonder Boy is potentially going to leapfrog everybody and get the title fight with champion Kamaru Usman. Wonder Boy is the only guy in the top 5 who has not faced Usman yet, so that would be an interesting wrinkle to throw into the equation.
Yep.
It would be, it's not the best stylistic matchup for Wonder Boy by any means, but it would be something different that we haven't already seen for champion Kamaru Usman. But Gilbert also said that if he wins, he does not think that he will then get the next title shot. What do you make of that?
I don't believe he will. If Gilbert wins, I don't think he'll get the next title shot, just because, Kamaru has left almost everyone in the top 5 in dust. It's just everyone wants to see what is going to beat Kamaru Usman. And, if Wonder Boy wins, I completely understand that he'll get to leapfrog, But you never know. You'll have Colby tweeting out some stuff. You'll have him complaining. You'll have Masvidal throwing his ring in the hat. So, I think stylistically, it's very rough for Wonder Boy. And he didn't do that great with Tyron Woodley either. The first one was a draw, last one he lost, but Kamaru's a different animal.
First one was an epic fight, though.
The epic fight.
The second, and as great as the first one was as much of an absolute flop, stinker, dud, whatever you wanted to call the second one. I think they respected each other way too much in that second matchup.
Oh yeah. After you go that long with someone, you're just like, all right, dude, we don't want to hurt each other that bad.
Right. That brings us to the odds for this matchup, which has Gilbert Burns coming in as the current underdog at plus 126. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson comes in as the favorite at a minus 157. Josh, what do you make of those odds, and who do you take?
That's actually very interesting to me. I would assume that Gilbert would be the favorite to win. But honestly, I put my money on Gilbert. I think that he's very passionate, and he takes this very, very seriously. Not saying that Wonderboy doesn't, but if you think about it, Wonderboy is, his last couple fights were guys out of the top 5, below him. So he's getting that fight above him, and does he still have it? We don't know. We'll see, but I would put my money on Gilbert for sure.
It's a tough one to call for me, because I think it depends on how Gilbert Burns tries to approach this fight, Josh.
True.
I think if Gilbert Burns tries to approach this fight and wants to think that we mentioned guys who sometimes they have their base that is their bread and butter, but they start to learn or hone a skill set later on in their career that they fall in love with, and sometimes that gets them into trouble. I don't know if that may be the situation for Gilbert Burns here, if he may fall in love with his striking a little bit too much and ends up getting clipped against a guy like Wonder Boy. Yeah. I don't know. There is definitely value for that with Wonder Boy, but safe money for me says that Durinho is going to get this done, but it's still a toss-up for me. I don't love the pick, full disclosure, people, but I do like the I like the over more than anything. I think that that's going to be the safer bet for this matchup personally. But again, anything can happen, really and truly. Gilbert Burns has the power to put anybody out in one swing of the fist. And Wonder Boy, we've seen time after time. He was undefeated as a kickboxer, and then now in the UFC, he has knockout after knockout. Mm-hmm. So that's two guys who have the ability to end the night at any given moment. Now is the time where we're going to put the spotlight on a couple of different matchups out there that Josh and I have our eye on. The first one that comes to mind, or the one that I want to put the highlight on, is the Ryan Hall versus Ilya Tuporia matchup. Now, this has some interesting value within the props that we're going to get to in the next segment, but you have Ryan Hall, who it's been a couple of years since we've last seen him. He's a guy who almost nobody wants to fight because he's such a tactical submission artist, nicknamed the Wizard, veteran of the Ultimate Fighter, coming in against a guy who's undefeated, who has really and truly, he's looked great since he's been in the UFC. Yeah. Ilya Tuporia is a menace, man. He came in, he looked good in that fight against Yusuf, and then he comes out in that next fight and he sparks Damon Jackson. Absolutely. Damon Jackson is no joke, man. Damon Jackson is a savvy, tough veteran, and he went in there and absolutely obliterated him. So when we look at the matchup between Ryan Hall and Ilya Topurya, a lot of people say, oh, I mean, the leg lock game. Like, I mean, he's just going to go in and he's going to attack the legs and he's going to go after Topurya. But where I see potential trouble for Ryan Hall in this matchup, and Yusuf and I talked about this yesterday, is Topurya is going to rain down hellfire of ground and pound.
Yeah.
And especially from just from being a longtime jiu-jitsu player yourself, sometimes when you're in those deep leg attack positions,
it's dangerous.
Your head is susceptible for damage.
Yeah.
So that's one that really kind of sticks off the page for me as a matchup that you want to watch out for, because it's a great styles clash. You have Topurya coming in as a heavy favorite at -250 and Ryan Hall at +195. So it's going to be a great matchup for me, for my money's worth, to want to keep my eyes on. What about you?
I think my spotlight that I would want to put on is Nico Price and Michael Pereira. I think that fight it has fireworks written all over it.
It does.
Like, just if you want to be entertained, that fight right there is going to entertain you.
Yeah, no, that fight is everything that you could want for as a fan. You're going to get your money's worth in that matchup. You have Nico Price coming in as the slight favorite at -160, or excuse me, you have Michelle Pajeda coming in at the slight favorite at -160, and Nico Price coming in as the slight underdog at a +135. I think that the crowd is going to play a factor in this particular matchup because both of these guys ride heavy off of the energy. They're fight of the night type of guys, very emotional type of fighters in that way. When we come back from the break, we're going to take a look at a couple of prop bets and a couple of interesting lines that Josh and I find some value on here. Stick around as we come back. This is the MMA Plug presented by DenverSportsBetting.com on 98.1 Mile High Sports Radio.